Hey y'all, it's me, Dree. Let's get into the message because right away, these three emotion cards, they're standing out to me. We have resistance, resonance, and awakening. So, I don't think these are separate energies. I'm thinking that this is more of like stages. I think this is a progression because resistance, that naturally leads into resonance, doesn't it? And resonance, that naturally leads to awakening, I think. Resistance is pushing against something. Resonance is when something finally starts clicking. And awakening, well, that is understanding what it is that y'all have been seeing all along. So before we even touch this tarot, I already feel like we're watching a process unfold. Don't you? I guess the question is, who is moving through this? Let's get into the message. We start with the Three of Swords, the Nine of Wands reverse, the Waxing Moon, and the Five of Cups. So immediately, this Three of Swords tells me that there's two sides to this message. And I'm getting that both sides experienced this Three of Swords. I'm getting both sides were touched by the same situation, and both sides were impacted by the same event. But then I'm getting that the path separates because the collective, y'all move into this Nine of Wands reverse energy. So I'm getting the collective carries it. The collective fights with it, wrestles with it, tries to understand it, tries to make sense of it, why this Three of Swords even happened at all. I'm getting that the collective actively engages with the grief that they feel. Meanwhile, the other side, I'm getting that they do not. I'm getting that the other side remains up here in resistance. And that distinction matters because while the collective is over here actively processing, the other side of this is up here postponing. While the collective is moving through the pain, this side is avoiding it. And while the collective is confronting the reality, this other side is resisting it. And I'm getting that the collective gets to the point in it where they're ready to lay it down. And that's exactly why this waxing moon becomes so important here. This is a timing card. And this waxing moon tells me that movement has begun. And I'm getting that movement began because the collective moved through this loss as far as they possibly could. They carried it. They fought with it. They questioned it. They tried to understand it. They tried to make sense of it. Until eventually, they reached the end of the road with it. There was nothing left to process. There was nothing left to understand. There was nothing left to carry. So the collective, y'all put it down. Not because y'all got all the answers. Not because y'all got closure. But because y'all simply couldn't carry it anymore. And that, I'm getting, is the moment that made everything shift. Because while the collective was holding on to it, they were still energetically connected to the burden. But the moment that they put it down, the energy, it had somewhere else to go. I don't think this shift happened when the collective picked the burden up. I think it happened when the collective finally put the burden down. And that's where things start to change. Because now we're arriving at this Five of Cups. And I don't think this belongs to the collective. I think the collective clearly already lived here. They already carried the grief. They already carried the sadness. They already carried their mourning. So this means if this Five of Cups is appearing now, after the collective let it down, put it down, that means this Five of Cups is appearing somewhere else. So I'm getting that this must belong to the other side of this Three of Swords, the other side of this equation. Because while the collective was moving through grief, remember we said the other side was resisting it. They were avoiding it. They were delaying it. They were refusing to emotionally register it until something broke. What broke was something tied to this resistance, because now this person is landing in the same grief the collective started in during this event they both experienced. But I'm getting that now the collective and this person, their grief are for completely different reasons. I'm getting that the collective grieved heartbreak, disillusionment, and the loss of what they believed was true. And this other side that was late to the grieving show, well, they're now grieving because reality is finally landing. Reality is finally registering. Reality is finally becoming emotional for them. And that's a very different reason for grief, isn't it? I know that this kind of grief carries awareness with it, because you don't mourn something that never mattered, and you don't feel loss over something you never acknowledged. You don't emotionally register something you've successfully avoided. So the appearance of this card, this is telling me clearly that the resistance is breaking. And if resistance is breaking, then suddenly, I would say, resonance starts making a lot more sense for both of these energies to move towards. Because resonance, that's what happens when reality and your knowing finally meet each other and they match. So for the collective, I'm getting their resonance comes when the evidence finally shows up and matches what they've known all along. The pattern becomes undeniable. The assumptions become undeniable. The reality of it all becomes undeniable. I'm getting the collective finally realizes they weren't imagining any of this situation. Their reality of it, that was correct. Their discernment was correct. And this moment that all these things start to match, well, the need for evidence disappears for the collective because the search ends. But what the other side experiences, well, they're experiencing this resonance completely different. The other side is experiencing it because they are finally recognizing there is more in play than just themselves. They are finally seeing the situation. They are finally seeing the impact of it. They are finally seeing the facts they were resisting all along. And so for this other person, reality begins matching what they no longer have the ability to deny. So both of these people are experiencing the same emotion, but definitely for different reasons. They're at the same stage, but different doorways. And that takes us directly into this center column. So we have the new moon. It's another timing card. 4 of coins reverse. 8 of coins. The high priestess. So this entire column, this feels like the collective to me. Because I'm getting once the collective meets resonance, everything starts to change. The new moon says a new cycle begins. There is a change in direction. It says set intentions and don't give up. And that's exactly what I'm getting here. The universe isn't telling the collective to stop. The universe is telling them to continue, to keep building, to keep moving, and to keep trusting themselves. Because what y'all have been doing this whole time has been working. Then we hit this Four of Coins reverse, and this feels like the collective stripping this entire situation down to its bones. This is y'all removing distractions, removing the noise, removing every single thing around it that doesn't matter. And then you're left asking, what here is essential? What here actually matters? And what survives when all the clutter is removed? Then we move into this Eight of Coins, and I think the collective has really been narrowing in on their discernment here. They've been refining it, sharpening it. They've been mastering it until what they're seeing about this situation, it can no longer be disputed. And I'm getting that matters too. Because once discernment reaches that kind of level, one of mastery, well, if you know, you know, but I'll tell you, the need for evidence disappears. The search, that finally ends. And this High Priestess, she already knows. And that's why we arrive here next, because this right here feels like the collective's awakening. Not awakening to somebody else. No. This is the collective awakening to themselves. And awakening to the fact that their reality as they experienced it was valid. Their perception was valid. Their knowing was valid. So I'm getting the collective's awakening comes through validation. And that brings us to this final column. I've got the Ten of Swords reversed, the Seven of Cups reversed, the King of Wands reversed, and then the last card is the Star. So this to me is feeling a lot like what happens after this awakening. This Ten of Swords reversed talks about changing the outcome, making a comeback, moving on, repairing. So a situation that looked finished begins moving in a completely different direction. That's interesting. Then we get to the Seven of Cups reverse, and I don't see this as confusion at all. I see this as seeing the full arc of the story clearly. This is seeing the beginning, the middle, the impact, the contribution, and yes, even after all this time, this is seeing the consequences. This is seeing everything. The full picture becomes visible. And I'm getting that once somebody can see this full arc. Well, we're still on this card. A decision becomes necessary. A choice becomes necessary. And a direction becomes necessary, because once you see this whole story, you can no longer pretend that you don't. And I'm getting that nobody else can in the energy field either. And this feels especially important for this other side of the equation, because this is somebody who is only now seeing what the collective has already spent all this time before processing. This other side is seeing the full arc. They're seeing how all the pieces connect. They're seeing where every road leads. And now, ironically, a decision has to be made, which takes us directly into this King of Wands reverse. And no, I don't think this is awakening. I think this is the state that follows this person's awakening. Because while the collective has already done the work, this other side, they have not. They're only right now realizing the gravity of the situation. They're only right now realizing the weight of it all. They're only barely right now emotionally registering what the collective has already spent all this time processing. So naturally, this King of Wands reverse is unpredictable. They don't move straight into star energy. They stay right here in King of Wands energy. This is a wounded masculine state of being. This is an unpredictable state. This is a reactive state. This is a state where somebody is trying to reconcile everything they've just realized, trying to resolve it in their head, trying to understand it, trying to figure out what the hell they do next. I think the movement that follows is difficult to anticipate. I don't think that's because there isn't movement, because I know there is movement. But just because awareness happens, that doesn't automatically create stability. Awareness creates motion. And this is where that other side stays. While finally we arrive at this star. And for the collective, this is everything. The first thing that's jumping out the most is this card. This means wish granted. This means renewal, healing, hope, serenity. And I'm feeling that all of this had a very clear purpose, even for this other side. Because while they are sitting with the gravity of what they've finally realized, well, the collective is receiving the award for the work they've already done. Because the collective carried the heartbreak. The collective carried the grief. The collective carried the burden. And then the collective refined their discernment. The collective reached resonance. The collective reached awakening. And because of all that, they arrive at the star. Renewed, healed, purposeful, hopeful. And that's why this entire message, it all comes back to this top row. Resistance, resonance, awakening. And that's not because these cards are describing people. It's because, like I said when we started, it's because they're describing a process. A process both sides of this story have to move through. The collective moved through it first. The other side I'm getting is having to move through it right now, and that is a big difference. But in either case, and ultimately, this is what I know for sure. Both sides here, the collective, this other person, we know that they're both moving. And what they're both moving towards is the same thing. They're mirroring each other, just like when they started. The thing that they're moving towards now, that they're gonna both experience at the same time, and they both have free will to decide what they do with it. This is both of these energies moving and slanting directly in truth. And the difference here is that truth can feel very, very different depending on where exactly it is that a person is standing when that truth finally arrives. If you can't see it for yourself, I don't know what to say, but the truth, that all arrives at once. And the position that y'all are in compared to the position that they're in, well, just look. I'm focused on my collective. And I'm proud of the work that y'all put in while everybody else was out denying there was even a problem and living a life. But I'm getting that now the collective gets to start living. And I think that this other energy now, they have to stop. And because they're reversed, I'm getting that the living that they've been doing this whole time, while the collective was healing and processing, well, I'm getting the life they were living. That wasn't anything noteworthy. but I'm getting that the life that the collective is getting, well, that's star energy, you guys. That's your wishes are fulfilled. Wish granted. I bet looking back now, this reverse energy really probably is thinking that they should have played their cards different. Right? That's the message that I got for y'all today. So if this one landed, then engage with my channel. Send me your energy so I can keep bringing you the truth that you need to hear. And remember, where there is love, there is light. I'll see you guys again real soon.